Rahab's story is one of extraordinary faith, redemption, and courage in the face of great risk. It begins in the ancient city of Jericho, a bustling metropolis fortified by towering walls and filled with people who lived in fear of the approaching Israelites. Rahab was a woman with a controversial reputation, known as an innkeeper and a harlot, living near the edge of the city wall. Despite her past, Rahab had heard stories that stirred something profound within her. Travelers spoke of the God of Israel, a God who had parted the Red Sea, provided miraculous victories, and guided his people through the wilderness. While Jericho's citizens were terrified by these tales, Rahab felt a glimmer of hope and a stirring of faith. She realized that this God was not like the false gods her people worshipped. This was the true God, powerful and sovereign over heaven and earth. One fateful day, 2 Israelite spies arrived in Jericho, sent by Joshua to gather intelligence about the city in preparation for its conquest. Knowing the danger they faced, they sought refuge in Rahab's house. She welcomed them in, but their presence did not go unnoticed. Soon, the king of Jericho sent soldiers to her house, demanding that she hand over the spies. At this moment, Rahab faced a life-changing choice. She could betray the spies and align herself with her people, or she could risk everything, her safety, her reputation, and even her life, to help these men of God. Her faith gave her the courage to make the right decision. Rahab hid the spies on her rooftop under stalks of flax. When the soldiers came knocking, she deceived them, saying the men had already left the city and urging them to pursue them quickly. Once the soldiers were gone, Rahab went to the spies and shared her heart. "I know that the Lord has given you this land," she said. "We have heard of his mighty deeds, and our hearts melted with fear. For the Lord your God is God in heaven above and on the earth below." In this profound confession, Rahab declared her faith in the God of Israel, a faith that stood in stark contrast to the idolatry of her people. Rahab then made a bold request. She asked the spies to spare her and her family when the city was destroyed. Recognizing the sincerity of her faith, the spies agreed. They instructed her to tie a scarlet cord in her window, a sign that her house was to be spared during the attack. They also warned her to gather all her family members inside her house, as anyone outside would not be protected. With her faith firmly in God's promises, Rahab let the spies down from her window using a rope, enabling them to escape safely. She told them to hide in the hills for 3 days before returning to Joshua. As the days passed, Jericho grew increasingly tense, knowing the Israelites were near. When the Israelites finally arrived, they followed God's unusual command to march around the city once a day for 6 days. On the 7th day, they marched around the city 7 times, blowing their trumpets. At the sound of a great shout, the mighty walls of Jericho crumbled to the ground. The city was destroyed, but Rahab's house, marked by the scarlet cord, stood untouched amidst the ruins. True to their word, the spies returned to Rahab's house and brought her and her family to safety. They were led out of the city and welcomed into the Israelite camp. Rahab's act of faith had not only saved her family, but also changed the trajectory of her life forever. No longer defined by her past, Rahab became part of the Israelite community. She later married Salmon, a man from the tribe of Judah. Together, they had a son named Boaz, who would go on to marry Ruth, creating a lineage that included King David and, ultimately, Jesus Christ. Rahab's story is a powerful reminder that God's grace is available to everyone, regardless of their past. Her faith and courage not only brought about her salvation, but also made her an integral part of God's redemptive plan. Rahab's name is honored in the genealogy of Christ and celebrated in the Bible as an example of faith in action. Her life demonstrates that when we place our trust in God, He can use us for extraordinary purposes, transforming even the most unlikely individuals into vessels of his glory and grace.